Ladies and gentlemen, Thailand's cultural DNA has changed more in 1 year than it has in the entire history of the kingdom, including the 1932 revolution, which was a political change, but the culture remained the same. You see, a peaceful people's revolution has two phases, the ideological and the practical. Over the past year, the pro-democracy movement has achieved the ideological, that is, a cultural revolution. But the truth of the matter is, there won't be any monarchy reform. In fact, there won't be any reform, period. It just isn't going to happen, not with the Prayut Chan-o-cha Regime in charge of the kingdom. In this commentary, we are going to be showing a lot of footage put together by the political organization called Resolution, which is the topic of this video. For there to be reform, there must be a government willing to reform. To have a government willing to reform, political parties willing to reform need to become the government. However, the Prayut regime is so deeply entrenched in the power structure and has been so for the past 7 years. Its network encompasses political godfathers, the military, the Senate, the court, and the so-called independent organizations such as the National Anti-Corruption Commission and the Election Commission, plus a constitution written specifically in the interest of the Prayut regime.
ผมเป็นคนเขียนรัฐธรรมนูญโดยเสนอสมัยผมเป็นสวให้สว250 คนนี้มีสิทธิ์ร่วมในการโหวตคนที่จะเป็นนายกรัฐมนตรี
Therefore, no one is going to become government but
Prayut Chan-o-cha
and eventually the clone of General Prayut. The first phase of a peaceful people's revolution is the ideological. Stir up and inspire, awaken the kingdom. The second phase is the practical, the logical step towards reform. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to introduce the hashtag หรือระบอบประยุทธ์ Dismantle the Prayut Regime, and the political organization calling itself Resolution. Set aside monarchy reform. For now, it's unrealistic. But taking down the Prayut regime is realistic, practical, and essential for any reform to happen. Notice they target not General Prayut but the Prayut regime, which is the network that birthed the 2017 constitution. You have to get through this regime in order to reform the constitution. You have to reform the constitution in order to reform Thailand. Of course, this cannot be done through the parliamentary process. 250 senators handpicked by General Prayut have the power to block any path towards democracy, including constitution reform. Here are some senators saying no to ILO's proposal for constitution reform.
ไม่รับหลักการไม่รับหลักการไม่รับหลักการไม่รับหลักการไม่รับหลักการไม่รับหลักการครับฉบับที่ 7 ไม่รับหลักการ
Therefore, to dismantle the Prayut regime, the pro-democracy movement needs a show of force, a show of the people's power. As such, หรือระบอบประยุทธ์ dismantle the Prayut regime wants 1 million signatures. Will they get 1 million signatures? Will they also hit the streets? It remains to be seen. But here are some of the cast of characters. Stepping up her involvement in the pro-democracy movement is former Miss Universe Thailand contestant Chaya Thanut. There's also Mai Pasarabali and ILO, as well as other pro-democracy activists and organizations. Then there's Thanathorn Juangnongkin, Piyabut Sangkanokkun, and the progressive movement. The question then becomes, would Thailand's conservatives, who are nauseated by the Prayut regime, be able to overcome their distaste for Thanathorn and Piyabut and join the call to dismantle the Prayut regime? This, ladies and gentlemen, is crucial because, at least in my opinion, it's not just about 1 million signatures. The strength of the movement also requires bridging the social divide. Forget the hardcore fanatics. There are many casual conservatives ready to abandon the Prayut regime if there's a viable alternative that they can embrace. Which brings us to the next person. A key figure in this movement is Prayut Chan-o-cha Regime, who in time could become the game changer. not just for the pro-democracy movement, but for Thailand as a whole. He could become someone who can bridge the social divide, and I will discuss how and why in a future video. But for now, one thing is certain. For there to be hope for democracy in Thailand, it's time the People's Revolution takes a step from the ideological to the practical.